Hello everyone, welcome back to Football Manager 2017, and today we're trying a Football Manager experiment with the new game. And this experiment's a bit of an interesting one. We've all loved being in charge of teams with big transfer budgets, but what if every Premier League club had £1 billion transfer budget? That is exactly what I've done with the in-game editor to every team in the Premier League. They've all got £1 billion in the bank, and they've also got £1 billion in their transfer kitty. Now the wage budget hasn't changed. That doesn't really matter when you've got this much money, because if you move the slider even a little bit, you're going to max out your wage budget. But it's going to be interesting to see who can bring in the best players, because obviously the teams will still have problems on their reputation. So the players like Ronaldo and Messi aren't going to want to move to any of these clubs because they won't be reputable enough compared to Real Madrid and Arsenal. But no club is going to spend, I wouldn't think, £1 billion in one transfer window or even one season. So this could have effects over the next 2 or 3 seasons as teams make progress in the Champions League. But it's going to be interesting to see who moves where. So the way this will work is I'm going to fast forward through pre-season to the end of the transfer window. We'll have a look at who signed who. Then we'll skip to the end of the season, see what other transfers have been made, where the teams have finished up, and we'll do that for the first maybe 3 or 4 seasons and see if things change much. Obviously the teams could blow through this budget in the first 2 years, in which case we might see about stopping then. There might be no change in the dynamic of the league. But I thought it's going to be an interesting little experiment to see what happens when there's £20 billion given to the Premier League's transfer budget. So let's fast forward to the end of the transfer window and see where we are. Well, we are now at the end of the transfer window. As you can see, a few games have been played so far in the league, so it's impossible to tell if it's had any impact on the squads. But what is interesting is the transfer screen. Now, as you see, these are all the transfers in the Premier League. I've ordered them by fee to make them a little bit more interesting. Now, there's a few interesting ones in here, but it's thoroughly underwhelming, given that every single club had £1 billion in their transfer kitty. Very few have actually acted on it. Hakan Çalhanoğlu from Leverkusen to Spurs, the biggest of the transfers. Then you've got Hysaj of Napoli to City, but they're the only transfers over £20 million. Other interesting ones are Mariano, maybe, from Real Madrid to Swansea, but none of these players are particularly great. Danilo to United, maybe one of the few big names. Man City raiding Ajax of Vaclav Černý. Otherwise, there's not really any big transfers. Adebayor, Carvalho and Berbatov may be the biggest ones, and they're free transfers. So I'm a little bit perplexed because I had a quick check, and all of these teams, even Bournemouth, still have the same transfer budget. They've still got the same transfer budget. Their wage budget's still got quite a lot of money in it. That's nearly £1 million in the wage budget there. I don't understand why the transfers aren't happening. There's definitely enough wiggle room in everybody's wage budgets to bring players in. So maybe it's just the Football Manager game being a little bit coy with its money, but I think it will be a longer term impact that this has, hopefully as clubs start to build up their reputation. So what we're going to do now is I'm not going to wait for January. We're going to skip right to the end of the season. We'll see how things are looking, and we'll go from there. We are now at the end of the first season in the billionaire experiment, and as you can see, Arsenal have won the title. There's not too much of a surprise in the way the league table has actually shaped up. The big shock is Everton getting relegated on 37 points, just behind Swansea. It must have been a real scrap at the end there. The way we'll go through this now is we're going to look at each individual team's transfers, see who they brought in. It's quite easy to do. You just go to the transfer history. So Arsenal brought in a few players. Nobody really big. They brought in Divock Origi. That could turn out to be quite big. Juan Bernat for up to 36.5. Kenny Tete from Ajax. Not too many players going out. They only spent £56 million. And if we have another look at their financial situation, the transfer budget has been whacked way down to 413 million. Lots of money in the bank still. So now obviously the clubs will be set their new transfer budget, so it'll be worth checking those out. All of the clubs will still have this money in their account. If we have a look now at Manchester City, They spent £171 million. They were the big spenders. A lot of money on Antoine Griezmann. They do tend to sign him. Haisage we already knew about. Castillejo coming in from Villarreal. Gabriel Jesus. It looks like they spent a lot more money in January than before. Just £19 million going out. That was mainly Stevan Jovetic. Quick look at their financial situation, and you'll see that they have got still quite a lot in there. I don't think any club's really going to be struggling for cash. It's just about if the game will spend it on their behalf. Manchester United, not really bringing anybody in. Danilo and Nainggolan was their big January transfer. Nobody really going out either. If we have a look at their finances, because they do have an interesting financial situation overall. So some 200 million has been wiped out of their bank balance, I assume to pay off debts. Transfer budget still at about £400 million, so they've got money to spend this summer. I think because the game will have a lot longer over this summer to bring players in, there'll be more action by the end of the next transfer window. If we have a look at Spurs, they have managed to bring in about £91 million. Coutinho, a player they do tend to sign in the game. Douglas Costa, a very good signing, up to £54 million for him. Raiding Bayern Munich there. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, they'd already brought in. So definitely having more of an impact as the game goes on. Vincent Janssen went out to West Ham. Just have a look at Chelsea, see who they brought in. So they spent 112 million. William Carvalho, if you watch my my West Ham save, you'll see that we brought him in. Berahino tends to do quite well in this game. Fred and De Vrij, not exactly bad additions. Oscar went to Bayern Munich for £33 million. So their net spend actually isn't that high. West Ham, a club that do like to bring in some good players in my experience of this game so far. They spent £30 million. Not an awful lot of money, really. If we just have a look at their financial situation. Have they gone over the £1 billion mark? Just counting out the numbers there. They have indeed gone over the £1 billion mark. So they've actually turned a profit this year. I think they're the first club we've seen to actually do that. They've not really spent any money, which is why. Yet they still managed to finish 6th in the Premier League. Liverpool, have a look at their transfers. Again, virtually nothing spent. They actually turned a profit on their transfers, which is ridiculous. Philip Coutinho going out, Anna Regian not bringing in anybody to replace them. If we have a look at their money, they've lost another £270 million. Clubs must be using this money to pay down their debts. They still got big transfer budgets, but it'll be interesting to see where the club's facilities are in the near future. I imagine there'll be a lot of stadium expansion and upgrading of facilities. Leicester spent a good £56 million. Nobody really major coming in there. Vidmar's quite a good player. Naing, obviously the big one they're looking for. Burnley, they've done quite well to finish 9th. Have a look at their history. Again, virtually nothing spent. Their financial situation must be pretty rosy right now. Yep, they've passed the £1 billion mark. They actually made a £50 million profit this year. So they'll be looking to hopefully spend some money this summer with such a good league finish. Southampton, again, £55 million. Their big signings were Sabitzer and Will Hughes, so they're focusing on youth, as they do tend to do. Nobody really going out. Every club you'll see have Rich next to their title, which will make this more interesting as we go along. Watford, £25 million spent. No real big signings there. Bournemouth, quite an interesting club because they were in some real financial uncertainty for such a long time. They spent very little money. So a lot of these clubs are sticking to their overall principles. If we have a look at Bournemouth's finances now, they have lost some £300 million, so I'm just not sure where that money's going. Other than to pay down debts, maybe they're paying out profits, because the £1 billion will be counted as a profit. It could be tax deductions. It's difficult to know for sure. If we maybe have a look at their finance page, if we're able to. No, I don't think we are, which is a little bit disappointing. Crystal Palace, who've they brought in? Some £38 million. Loic Remy, a good signing, and Engels from Bruges. Sunderland. Not a lot of money spent there either, just £30 million. The relegation-threatened clubs really didn't go on a big spending spree. Stoke spending just £10 million, not bringing any money in from sales. Middlesbrough spent absolutely nothing. They actually made a profit. Let's have a look at their finances. Again, another club to have turned a profit this year. Of course, financial fair play may be a bit of a factor in all of this. It's hard to know without managing a team directly. If you've got thoughts and suggestions for why some of these clubs are losing £300 million and why others are making profits, do let me know in the comments. I'm interested to get your view on this. Without taking over any of these clubs, I can't have an in-detail look at their finances. But let me know if you want me to do that and have a quick look. Swansea not really bringing anybody in. Everton are quite interesting because they did get relegated. It's going to be interesting to see how they do. They didn't spend any money despite getting relegated. It's absolutely crazy. It's going to be really interesting to see how they do in the Championship with £1 billion in the bank account. Same for West Brom, who again didn't really bring anybody in. Amavi, their biggest signing, they actually turned a profit too. And last but not least, Hull, right at the bottom of the Premier League. They were a long way off the pace in the end, and they spent £17.25 million. So they were one of the few clubs who did try to fix their situation, but it just didn't work out for them. If you just have a look at their finances and see if they've been impacted at all. No, they actually turned a profit on getting relegated from the Premier League. So that's all quite interesting. Some clubs taking massive financial hits, such as Liverpool. If we just have a look at their club general information, we can see they've still got loan debt of £266 million, despite losing about £300 million. So quite an interesting sort of end to the first season. It's there's not really been any major transfers that you wouldn't expect the game to make automatically. I think this summer, when the game has about 3-4 months to make transfers in, we will see a bit more shift. It will be interesting to see how the three clubs who go down do in the Championship, if they spend a lot of money. And also, you'd expect the three teams that come up to be at a severe disadvantage and to get relegated straight away. But we'll skip ahead now to the end of this transfer window, see where all the teams are, and check back in then. Now the other side of the transfer window is the second season of the Premier League does kick off, which is going to go through the months of that summer and look at the major transfers. So in June 2017 there weren't too many major ones. Philippe Coutinho making the move to Spurs. I think we'd already seen that one. That happened very early on. Troy Deeney going to Southampton for what could be £44 million. That is a very big transfer. Salomon Rondon, another big one, going for £32.5 million. So you can see there's some really inflated prices here. Burnley splashing out up to £36 million on Lewis Cook. I know for a fact he's a very good youth prospect, but Romelu Lukaku going for just £33 million. So a huge disparity appearing in the valuations of a lot of these players. Charlie Taylor from Aston Villa could be worth up to 22. No other really major transfers in there. If we have a look at July, you'll see Paulo Dybala, the biggest one, going to Manchester City for up to £80 million. Liverpool signing Inaki Williams from Athletic Bilbao. Casemiro going to Man City for £52 million. Pjanic to Chelsea for £48 million. Crystal Palace signing Castillejo for £41.5. That's quite a lot of money for them. Stoke splashing up to £32.5 for James McCarthy. You can see there's a lot of money going out here. Palace making a few big signings. They're clearly putting down a statement of intent. Ross Barkley going to Watford for £34.5. Obviously Everton got relegated. So those are some quite big transfers. They've got quite a bit of money in their account now, I'd imagine. Virgil van Dijk going to Barcelona for £34 million. Douglas Santos going to Man City. Yeah, quite a few big signings. Everton did bring in quite a few players in the end, I think, if we scroll down even further. But in terms of big transfers, it's good to see teams like Crystal Palace actually getting out the chequebook now. Man City by far the biggest spenders, as you might expect. Arsenal not really doing an awful lot. If we skip over to August, you'll see this is where Manchester United did their business. They bought in Higuain from Juventus for £86 million, Morata from Real Madrid for up to 52. They also got Javi Martinez for up to £45 million. Watford decided to splash their checkbook with players from West Brom, Toulouse, and the big one being Babarama for Chelsea for up to £37 million. Palace bringing a couple more big signings in. They must have spent quite a lot of money this season. Indeed, they spent £148 million. So a big statement of intent from Palace. I think one of the few teams to actually do that. Watford may be the other one. They spent £89 million. So there's definitely money being splashed out by some of the smaller teams. I think West Ham maybe spent a bit of money too. They only spent £55 million. But overall, you can see the big teams are still doing as they would normally do. I don't think there's anything particularly out of the ordinary for them. Maybe slightly larger amounts of money. The 1.4 billion is a bit higher than I would normally expect. See, Everton did sign quite a few players in the Championship, so they have done quite a bit of business after getting relegated. They've spent £93 million in the Championship, but brought in 138. But these are some quite big fees for a Championship team. £22.5 million up to 30 for Kimpembe from PSG. Reece Burke, another one. They're all good young players, which could set them up quite well for the future. But those are the major transfers. Now, the real question now is, how will this play out for Watford and Crystal Palace? This video is, I think, running on a little bit long. So I am going to end it here. But we will do another part on this. I'm interested to see how these transfers work out. We'll probably go through these seasons a little bit quicker from here on out after looking at the initial spending. Next episode, we'll go through probably seasons 2, 3, and maybe even seasons 4. Let me know if there's other elements of this you want to have a look at. I will take more time to look at Champions League winners and things like that. I didn't think it was particularly important after the first season. But let me know if you want to go into more detail on certain elements of it, or if there's other experiments you want me to try. I'm always happy to try different things. I was thinking of maybe swapping the Premier League players with teams in the League 2 sort of area and see how they get on from there, if they can hang on to the big players, if they get promoted up the leagues. Loads of different things we can try. So let me know if there are things you want me to take a look at, different things we can try out, or if there's just bits of information you want. But that'll be all for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time, see ya.